It will come as a surprise to no one who has heard me talk before that I am not American, so 4th of July means nothing to me. But my girlfriend is American, so I am going to use this as an excuse to watch a certain 4th of July slasher movie that came out in the 90s, which may or may not have possibly the most patriotic plot that you've ever heard of. I'm watching Uncle Sam. When a group of teens burn an American flag on his burial site, a Desert Storm veteran killed in combat rises from the grave on the 4th of July to wreak havoc on the unpatriotic citizens in his hometown. Does it baffle anybody else when people are like, you must respect the flag regardless of what flag it is, and then choose to wear that same flag on things like underwear or socks? Because I wouldn't exactly call that respecting the flag. As always here on my channel, I'm going to go and watch the movie off camera, because that way there are no spoilers if you still wish to watch the movie. Nobody wants to watch a movie after watching somebody already watch it from start to finish. America, fuck yeah! I haven't really watched that much 90s horror, if I'm being honest. I was born in 1991, so when I first started watching horror, it was probably around like the mid-2000s. Like, one of my first horror movies I ever watched was Silent Hill, so that should tell you the sort of time frame that I got into horror. But I was doing some research when I was looking into actually if I wanted to watch Uncle Sam to begin with, and I found out that when this movie came out, it was 1996, which is the same year that the first Scream movie came out. But what I was more surprised about was that this movie actually came out in the November of 1996, and I was expecting it to have come out in, say, June, July, considering that this is supposed to be a movie set around a holiday in July. I am going to talk about certain things that happen in the movie, but I'm going to keep them vague and spoiler free as much as possible, so unless you've watched the movie, you will not know exactly the part that I'm talking about, and it may even persuade you to actually watch this movie. The first half of this movie is quite slow, and it does take a while for it to actually get on its feet and then start running. It talks a lot about the negatives and the trauma that often go hand in hand with war, and you find out that Sam, as a character, was considered to be a psychopath before actually joining the military, and that the reason he joined the military was to fulfill this kind of like bloodlust that he had. You find out that Sam has this like belief about how you should personally behave as an American citizen, and this has kind of, in a bad way, rubbed off on his nephew Jody, and he uses this sort of belief as like a mantra. But this view has actually been countered in another character in the movie called Jed. I love Jed. He's possibly my favourite person in the entire movie, who is another soldier who happened to know Sam before he went into the army. Because of Jed, it means that the movie hasn't taken this, like, war is good and you should follow blindly attitude, which in the beginning, just going off how Jodie behaves, I was very worried that that was possibly where this was going to go. And when it didn't, I was so happy about that. Jodie is such a weird kid, but I wasn't surprised in the slightest about a movie designed around being patriotic to find out that he is obsessed with the US military and wants to go into the army and be exactly like Uncle Sam was. And there is a particular scene that stands out when he's at school one day and he takes Sam's medals in, and you find out that the teacher was actually supposed to be drafted into the Vietnam War, and they talk about how some people decided that it was better to leave the country rather than to fight for something that they thought was wrong. And then it cuts to Jody sitting at his desk mumbling, basically saying that he is going to join the army and blindly follow whatever the president tells him to do. Luckily though, he does get a character arc, and you see him grow and you see him change as a character, which I am so grateful for, because he would have been the most unbearable thing in this movie if he had stayed the same for the entire 90 minutes. I'm gonna mention a scene here because I have so many questions about it. There's a scene where a peeping Tom on stilts dressed as Uncle Sam, the poster guy Uncle Sam, not the bad guy in this movie, is on stilts and staring through her bedroom window after she's had a bath. But at no point does she notice that there is a man on stilts staring through the window. And why does she have a random sink in her bedroom instead of a dresser? Like, that's a questionable decision, but that scene for some reason has stuck with me. The second half of the movie, though, I'm coming at this from the point of view of somebody who lives in Britain and has no knowledge about the 4th of July celebrations apart from what I've seen in movies. So my knowledge of the 4th of July celebrations is things like barbecues, picnic tables, fireworks, people dressed as dead presidents. I'm going to assume I'm on the right track with this. But taking all of this into account, I do think that it is a really good setting for a slasher movie, because it's such a massive social gathering that somebody can put on a costume and completely blend into the crowd and become anonymous. Considering that this movie is a black comedy horror, the comedy doesn't really hit right for me, but then comedy is just as subjective as horror is as a genre. So it was gonna be a hit or miss for me anyway. But the slasher part of this movie, it was actually really good, and it was better than I was expecting it to be. A lot of the deaths actually use things that are related to the celebration, and I love that, because it means that all the deaths are going to be unique to this movie and this setting. Like, one of the deaths involves a 4th of July fireworks display. My one kind of issue with the slasher part of this movie, though, is the fact that the movie takes so long to actually get going, that there aren't that many of these really cool but niche kills that happen to be themed around the 4th of July. The first kill doesn't actually take place till at least the 45-minute mark, and this is only a 90-minute movie. The special effects in this movie, though, are way better than I thought it would be, and Uncle Sam, when he's not got his face mask on, is a solid looking character. It's kind of a zombie makeup, but it's a solid looking character. Even when he's in the coffin and you just see his hands, they also look really good. And pairing it with this like iconic Uncle Sam poster, like costume that we've all seen, was a really smart choice. I honestly think if you are an American, that the Uncle Sam movie will probably be a lot funnier for you. Being from Britain, I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of things that just went over my head that somebody else would notice. I wasn't really expecting much from Uncle Sam, and in the end, that kind of played into its favour, and I'm actually going to give this a 3 out of 5 stars because it was kind of a fun movie in the end. At its core, it is your generic kind of slasher movie, and it does kind of pay homage to the 80s slashers rather than the 90s slashers. But pairing it with its 4th of July setting actually helps it stand out amongst the crowd. It's not like a Christmas slasher movie where we get a new influx of it every year. I honestly can't think of another slasher movie that is set around the 4th of July. If you like slasher movies though, those that kind of lean more on the cheesier side and less on the gory side, then I would consider giving Uncle Sam a watch, because there are a few gory moments, but a lot of it actually happens off camera. So if you are someone that doesn't like full-on gore but still wants a slasher movie, then Uncle Sam might actually be the slasher movie for you. So there you have it, my initial reaction and my review for Uncle Sam from 1996. If you have seen the movie or are now considering watching the movie, I would love to know down in the comment section down below. I will be back on Friday with another solo review, and until next time, bye.